Good evening. I'm Andrew Brown in the CBC Calgary studio. Our top story tonight, Greta Thunberg's visit. The Swedish environmental activist was spotted in Calgary today. Thunberg told CBC she has no public events planned for the city. She is, however, scheduled to attend a climate strike at the Alberta legislature in Edmonton this Friday. Politicians in Alberta have had mixed reactions to her visit. Here's what Mayor Naheed Nenshi and Premier Jason Kenney had to say.
I think understanding that 4 million people marched against for climate last month, we got to understand what's driving that, what people's very real fears and concerns are, as well as correcting misinformation about what we do.
As long as there is a need for energy, I'd rather that Alberta was a major supplier than the OPEC dictatorships that treat women like property instead of people and that have little or no environmental standards. We have to do better on the environmental front, and we are doing better. And that's a case I would make to Ms. Thunberg or anybody.
To talk more about Greta Thunberg, we're joined by Greg McDermid. He's a professor at the University of Calgary's Department of Geography. Thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
So, since Greta Thunberg announced she was coming to Alberta, we've heard a lot of different points of view from a lot of different people here. Why do you think her visit here is so polarizing?
Well, I think it's her message. I mean, Greta's message is actually quite simple, that human activities have caused a 1 degree rise in global mean temperature since pre-industrial times, and that trend is accelerating. If we want to stop that trend, we need to basically bring CO2 emissions down to net zero, and we need to do it now because the consequences of inaction are pretty severe. So that's a pretty heavy message, and it creates a lot of feelings.
Yeah, and why do you think that not everyone hears that message the same way?
Well, I think that first of all, some people think that that's a controversial message. I actually think it's not a controversial message. It's actually straight out of the IPCC reports, and it's supported by virtually every expert in the field. I think, though, that it can be perceived as an attack on people, especially I think if you're an Albertan. I mean, I'm an Albertan. We've got things that are unique about Alberta here that could be at threat by a world that's moving away from, fossil fuels. And we're proud of what we've done here in the province. I mean, we're independent thinking. We've developed the world's 3rd largest oil reserve through ingenuity and hard work. And so when someone who's very effective at delivering their message, especially someone who's a child, says these things, it can come across as an attack.
How do you think her age factors into the way she's perceived?
Well, I think it's complicated. My overwhelming response to that question is that her age should cause us to be careful. I mean, she's a child, she's a minor. She's just the messenger. So I would prefer that people focus on the message, which again is not controversial but difficult, and leave the messenger out of it, leave Greta out of it. Having said that, I can see why people get upset by it, because she's very effective. She doesn't back down to politicians or authority figures. She speaks very plainly.
Is there any precedent that you're aware of for what she's doing?
Not that I can think of. I don't think we've ever faced a situation like this. I can't think of someone who's been as effective as delivering her message, and I don't think the message has ever been quite so devastating before. So no, I actually can't.
Okay, so there's a climate strike at the legislature in Edmonton on Friday. Do you have any expectations on how she'll be received there?
Well, I expect that Albertans will welcome her warmly as a child who cares about her future. I guess I don't think that will be the universal response, but I hope that that is the main response.
What do you think we can learn from a week like this?
Well, I think it's time to think about these messages from experts and start to take these issues seriously.
Thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome.